Awesome, awesome, awesome. Appreciate it. So this is a test, guys. So I don't know if you know me. I'm doing developer relation for a long time. Oh yeah, that was working. And I try to think about different kind of like talking topics, right? And then in light of this specific conference, the fact that we are all cyberpunk at core, I try to kind of like slash out some of the content that I think DevRel should go, where he's going now and where he's now. I don't know how many of you are doing kind of like developer advocacy today, or at least how many of you know what a DevRel does? Huh? Some people, okay, kind of, yeah, yeah. But basically, like my talk is all about developer advocacy, cyberpunk infrastructure. So that said, I've been around for around like 12 years, organized bunch of hackathons, shield different products, non-shield different products, build different kind of like programs for developers to grow, to get exposure, participate in different like activation. Lately, I've been running one activation in MetaMask in consensus called Builder Nights. I don't know if you heard about Builder Nights, but basically, like the idea at the beginning was I don't want to shield anymore. I want to actually build a movement, basically a developer event that speak about specific topics. We started around 437. We started about layer two infrastructure, but we never kind of like had the idea to actually speak one single company or SDK stack, right? Even if I'm in a company. And then kind of like the things started to pick up my brain a bit. That DevRel is not really a marketing function, right? Like DevRel is about advocating for a space, top of the funnel, but most important, trying to get developer excited what they want to build. So it's giving the instrument of what to do. So there were four main points that I kind of like tried to trigger here. So DevRel is not marketing, is infra. Privacy and decentralization require builders, not users. So we want to actually think about who are actually building for, and the end user is the end goal, obviously. So, and how we're doing that, we want to conserve privacy, we want to defend the open system, and be kind of like, advocate for full decentralization. And there are different things. We want to maintain the ethos. I don't know if many of you guys know this kind of like cyberpunk ethos. I put it out here. I don't know if you see it, but code of speech, right? So we want to able to actually verify everything, proving everything, especially in light of like A004, X402 that are coming around the agentic economies. Privacy as human rights, and infrastructure might resist corporate and social capture. What does it mean? This we want to make sure that we track things, but we track it on an ethical way. So this is a part, I think it's a bit cutted, but this is a part where I kind of like go on the other side, right? So today, how we're building ecosystem is on siloed. I don't know if you're building on different stack, but today you can onboard obviously with Hardhat, Foundry, on Solidity, you can onboard on other Rust specific ecosystem, but I don't know about you. Are you feeling a bit stuck in a specific ecosystem? Like this kind of like cross-chain interop development journey is kind of broken, right? So it's very centralized. There are different bottlenecks. There are different green light. A lot of those activation are feeling very, very centralized in terms you get green light. I don't know if you had access to grants, but also grants are always like divided in different parts. And a lot of time those are kind of like single-handed green lighted by humans, right? Grow Hacked is all about ROI, right? ROI here, ROI there, and how we can actually like build an activation that return more monetary money. And I'm always been very kind of like uh, uh, it's very tricky, right? Because you want to provide ROI in the same time to the company, but in the same time you want to build something that is truly honest and has value in everything. And obviously you don't want to gatekeep, right? It's very important. You need to have fully decentralization at its core. And I think right now what we're doing is um, cannibalizing trust that developer give us in the ecosystem, especially newcomers. If you've been like building software in Web 2 for multiple years, you need to go actually in a specific direction in Web 3. And I think like decision making and chilling on the face of developers sometimes is cannibalizing the trust and the access of this ecosystem. The entire goal at the end is not siloing things specifically. So trust cannot be shielded into existence. I think, around developer relations, we build stack, right? From like docs, tutorials, events, content. And one thing that we need to think about is how we're building actually this infrastructure that is fully kind of like no shield, that really embrace developer in the ecosystem. So from a doc specific to kind of like a cultural infrastructure and permissionless system. I think this is really, really key, because part of the journey that a developer is coming into Web3 is all about learning how to build a app from scratch. It's about kind of like trying to use some tooling before even getting into the space and thinking about what to build. And I think sometimes we're skipping a lot this phase of this kind of like, value-driven onboarding versus kind of like the very kind of like product conversion onboarding. And I don't know if you relate on that, but that's also like the reason why I'm here and kind of like giving this talk. And I want to also like make sure that if you guys have questions or remarks, or if you think about this is the case, I want everyone to kind of like speak up and give some opinion. I don't want to take all the 20 minutes. So what I'm kind of like thinking as next step is that how we can actually build the professional DevRel as kind of like a strategic infrastructure, right? How we create this kind of like knowledge rails that are open and permissional for everyone. And I think that's super important, right? Because if you empower the community, you're not just empowering feedbacks, but also like you're empowering new knowledge coming and training new developer coming into the space. And that's all about kind of like building this kind of like decentralized momentum. So privacy is a problem. I think like one part that I kind of like started to discover is that obviously you want to have privacy at your core. You want to have, I mean, we are tracking different telemetry status around our SDK. And one thing is important, that you don't want to capture all data, but you want to give the opportunity to also developers sharing their journey and having specific kind of telemetry on that. And I think tools also must support fully anonymity by design, right? RDAT, Foundry, and especially now with LLM-based learnings. I don't know, but we are training on centralized containers, and is something that I'm quite scared about. So I definitely recommend people to, test out like, decentralized inference protocol, train your own models, but most important, if you want to change your LLM, also like, you don't basically start from scratch. So here is something I kind of like put together around like a cyberpunk toolkit, zero knowledge examples. So this is basically like if I would start a full no shield DevRel infra, these are kind of like the main things that I would care to kind of like advocate for, right? You have ZK examples and templates. You have security defaults by tutorials. You have specifically sovereign ID option, and obviously unit test for privacy regressions. So again, DevRel is a cyberpunk force, right? So we want to write code. We want to explicit advocate for writing code on a very open source way. But most important, we want to defend privacy of not just our user, but our developer building, right? And telemetry of our SDK, for example, is playing a big role. So, and I put here together function as cultural infrastructure defending decentralization is something that we need to care about every time that we're building something and we are advocate. And I think like DevRel right now is between engineering and the developer community is playing a huge role. And the reason why we kind of like want to resist this kind of like way to put numbers on every kind of like centralized onboarding. So when we're speaking about, like shielding our developer tooling to developer without them even understanding why and what they want to build is something that we care about. Corporate incentives to collect user data is obviously one big part. Private gatekeeping of knowledge, I think, is very important also to consider. And there is a lot of like different, platform today. It doesn't require you to start from scratch. You have decentralized docs. You have decentralized inference training your LLMs. You have even like you can speak with specific like events organizer, and they're really good specific events. They are actually done and preserving your own privacy when you're building things. So we all must kind of like resist this kind of like way of centralization. So principle Cyberpunk DevRel, I put together these 5 kind of principles you can kind of like take home: open by default, privacy by design, permission contribution, decentralized governance. I think is one of the biggest pillar here, and obviously zero resilience on user data. And I'm excited to see also this presentation with Nico and the demo with Nico on the wallet privacy SDK. I think is a big step into kind of like user collection, and it's just exciting to see this coming and this finally coming. People start to care about privacy by design, and also like inheriting this to developer tooling too. So developer advocacy is a cyberpunk infrastructure. DevRel today are committing advocacy between both users and developers in the community. And I think like if this profession doesn't really like defend privacy in a no-shield way, nobody really will. So for all the DevRels here in the room and people that advocate for technology to use user, big shout out to you. Thanks for always like caring about this. Just the fact that you guys are in this conference is great. So big round of applause to you guys. And I think that's it. I wanted to keep it short. If you guys think about also like some of the topics that I spoke about, you kind of like also either agree or you want to add some points. No need for ask questions. You can give your feedback, or you can say, hey, this is all wrong what Francesco you're saying right now. Please speak up. I think this is an open conference. I'm excited that share those thoughts with me. Awesome.
So you were speaking about that, like, if DevRels don't care about privacy and decentralization, nobody will. Like, what's like one of the best tips you can give to new DevRels to make sure they implement this in the best possible way if they have like no real experience with cyberpunk infrastructure? Like, where can they find the best information about this, etc.?
First, I will definitely check out the Web3 privacy ecosystem map. I think like it's great to see. It's a great common start, right? And then I was trying to embed these kind of like pillars in every activation that you're doing. Example: when you're doing workshops, don't start with your SDK stack shilling on the dApps. Start with actually like a landscape of tooling that you can use, and this is why we're going and deep diving this tool. So having this kind of like I built also a framework on how to actually like approach an advocacy experience. And the first part is all about value-driven onboarding, understanding why you're doing this use case and how you're doing. And I think it's this value-driven onboarding, this kind of like no-shield way to actually like driving advocacy is very powerful. And if people are on board with building this specific way, then you can proceed on a product conversion. You can actually like go further and actually like show how to build these specific things. But I think the first part, I think 98% of company today are actually not doing. That's why, for example, stuff like Builder Nights has been happening so naturally. And speaking about those topics, we don't want to speak about specific account abstraction stack. We want to speak about how 437 is shaping a specific journey. So technical debate and not product debate are super important. Thanks, everyone.